What's up guys, I'm Tony with Henko Autolab, and today I'm going to quickly go through the setup and install process for the G37 Hydro kit. And we're going to put it in our test car so you can kind of see the whole process. So let's go. So here are all the parts that come with your G37 Hydro. If you got the dual caliper kit with it, you'll have some brake lines, dual caliper brackets, bolts, and etc. But in this video, we're just going to do the Hydro install. So to put this together, you're going to start with your bracket and your master cylinder. Now, I'll say this now, even though I know most of you are going to skip this, if you don't have a pressure bleeder to bleed your brake system, your hydro system, you definitely want to bench bleed this master before you install it in the car. Because you can get air trapped in the master cylinder itself and it'll leave it feeling spongy. But if you bench bleed it before you put it in the car, you'll take care of all of that. So, don't skip that step, because sometimes you won't get the air out of the master cylinder once it's in the car. Now the first thing we want to do is take your Heim joint and just thread it on all the way down on the master cylinder. Now back it off just a couple turns and we'll just slide that forward. Then we're going to take the master cylinder, make sure the ports are facing up, and put it into the back of the bracket. Take your two M8 20mm long bolts, slide it in, and put the nuts on the opposite side. We got two 12mm wrenches, and go ahead and crank those bolts down. Now we take your handle and your spacers. This is a left-hand drive bracket, it's offset to the left. So you want to take your offset spacers and put your small one on the left side and your long one on the right side. This is going to make sure that your handle is shifted as close to the driver's side as possible. If you have right-hand drive, it's going to go the opposite. Take your two 12mm wrenches and tighten her up too. Now you're going to want to tighten this up pretty good, but don't go crazy with like an impact or anything. You want to make sure that you get all the slop and play out of it, but if you compress this too much, you can damage the bearings that are in the handle. So be careful. I only got two small wrenches and that's plenty. Now the last step here is to take the Allen head bolt and put it in the side. Line up the bolt head on the Heim and the thread. Or what I like to do is I'll take the 3/16 T-handle and put it in the side to get it started. And then I'll use my other hand to kind of position it. And you're just going to thread that in. And you're done. Let's go put it in the car. Okay, so we're going to start by taking off the shift knob and the shifter bezel. To take off the bezel, you just want to kind of reach underneath here. You'll feel a little separation. You want to pop that up and towards you, and you want to kind of pull it towards you some more, and you'll feel it separate in front. These two are a little finicky. I found it's a little easier just to reach in here and push down. I'm going to take a Phillips head screwdriver. You got two screws here, one here, one here. Put those here for safekeeping. You open up your glove box and you got 4 screws. These two take off the top lid, but you don't need to do that. You just need the 2 outside screws to take off your center console. And add these 2 to your collection. Now in the back, you've got this ashtray thing. You just want to pull that back and pop it out. Now go ahead and yank up your e-brake all the way. Reach in the back and lift up from the back and kind of start pulling it this way. And it should come free. You have a few more plugs that are going to your center console. Mine only has 2 right here, but I believe some other models have like 3 or 4, I don't remember. And yours might also use this connector. You have to disconnect everything that's going to this. Next, we're going to go ahead and take this plug off and push all that to the side. Now I've already done this part like you see, but you're going to want to take a razor blade like this or a pair of scissors or whatever, and you're going to want to trim out this part of the white foam here along with the carpet that's kind of covering it. And there's also this plastic piece that's normally right here. You want to go ahead and cut that guy out too. I almost forgot, you also have this thing in the way. So this is above your carpet. The easiest way I found to get this guy out is to take your screwdriver and wedge it in right here where this foam is, and you'll get between it and its other port, and you kind of pry it out that way. Once it pops out, it's easy to get out. Now we're going to unclip the harness from this bracket and take your 10mm socket and remove this cover. Now we're going to take off this faceplate and the radio behind it. The main reason for that is give you easier access to tightening your lines once it's in there. Because you can kind of fit it in here. I mean, you can fit it in here as it is, but getting to the lines that are way back here underneath this is going to be a real pain if you don't take this part out first. So to take your faceplate off, you're just going to take these 2 screws out and you pull it towards you and it'll come out like that. And you've got these 4 plugs here on the back side. Now to get this unit out, we're also going to have to take off this part. Mainly because you got the 4 screws, 2 on the bottom and 2 up top, but this one is hidden behind the ribbon for this. So it's easy, we'll just take this out, got 2 screws here, and then up and out she goes. Now you've got easy access to the top screws as well as the bottom 2. Now your whole radio unit's loose and you can pull this thing out. Now if you're like me and you don't want to disconnect all these annoying plugs, you can kind of just hang this to the side. But I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this for the sake of the video, just so we can see better. Now whether you've got the remote reservoir or an inline kit and you've got lines to run to the front, this is where you're going to want to go ahead and take care of that. So the best way to route it is take your lines and go up under this box and go out through the front side. To help you feed the line through, you can just take this piece and pull it towards you. And that'll open that up and you can pull the carpet back to get easier access to that back area. You want to route it up and over. And the best way to get through the firewall is to drill you a hole right here, almost the exact size of that. You don't want to go too far left or too far lower because there's, I believe, a hard line and some wires on this side. But if you stay right here in the center of this hole, it's almost perfect. Then once you've routed your line, you can tuck your carpet back in. Take this guy and put it right back. I'm gonna go ahead and show you this here where it's easier to see. If you have the reservoir, yours likely came with an adapter fitting with this O-ring. You're gonna want to put that on the inlet side of the master and tighten that up. It's a 14mm, but pro tip, if you don't have a 14, you can do 9/16, and it's almost the same size. Now you're gonna want to tighten this snug, but not crank it down. So the O-ring is gonna seal it, but if you tighten it super hard, it's gonna split the O-ring and cause a leak here. So be careful with that. If you have banjo bolts, you don't gotta worry. Tighten them up nice and tight, and they'll be good. Now we'll go ahead and feed the hydro through. You're gonna overlay your holes on the shifter. We're gonna grab our 4 10mm bolts and go ahead and put those back in. You're gonna want to tighten these up good to kind of squish your grommet out of the way, but don't go crazy because you will break these. They're not very strong. Now you might have noticed before there's an extra hole in the front. That is only as an extra bit of fastening if you want it. There's not a lot of flex in the bracket, but if you're a really strong dude and you like to yank this thing, go ahead and drill a hole for a M8 or a M6 riv nut. Put the riv nut in your sheet metal and bolt it down in front. That's going to give you even more stiffness out of the bracket. It's not super necessary, but it is an option for you if you want to. All right, we're most of the way there. So at this point, you want to go ahead and fasten up your lines to your master cylinder. And now we can go ahead and start reassembling all of this. And you're just going to do the reverse of everything you did to take it all out. Come on, compressor. When you're putting this main unit back in, if you're having trouble getting it to fully seat, reach back here and make sure that the wire harness isn't pinched on the line or the master or something. You should be able to just push it up out of the way, and then it'll sit nice and flush. Now you take your vent trim and pop that back in its home. Take your faceplate, plug your plugs, and screw your screws. One part I forgot to mention is you're going to want to trim a little piece of this here. All this is where your plugs are clipped in. You really only need to cut this first half. You take a pair of dikes or scissors or whatever and just trim a little bit here. And look at that, we're almost done. One part you don't want to forget is this jam nut here. So you can use this rod to kind of thread it in and out, and that'll adjust where this sits. Where we got it here is about where you'd want it. pretty much straight up and down, a little bit of room in the back, but you can adjust it to your liking. Just make sure that you take your 13 or 1/2 inch wrench, get it in there and tighten it up. If you get to do that step, you might have a little bit extra slop in this, and you don't want that. To go with your G37 Hydro, you got 4 different options that we made for blocking off this panel that gets pulled out for the Hydro. You got your blank panel, self-explanatory. You got your 52mm gauge pot holder, fits AEM gauges, whatever, oil pressure gauges, perfect. Got a cubby holster, put your vape, your coins, your lighter, whatever you want. Then you got your USB adapter. This is originally made to accept like a Amazon generic USB. Take your piece, screw it on, wire your power and ground from your cigarette lighter, and there you go. Or you can use this to adapt the factory cigarette lighter to this panel. Then you keep using your other adapters you already have. So since this one's kind of the most in depth, I'm gonna show you how to install that on this. So first you're gonna want to take off these 4 screws. All right, now you want to take off these 2 screws so you can separate this panel and get access to the back of the cigarette lighter. So this is normally clipped up here. You just pop that off. And then you're gonna push the cigarette lighter forward. Now be careful, don't jam it too hard because you can break these wires pretty easy. So you're gonna push that one forward, and it's gonna give you a little bit better access to the light socket. To get the light socket out, you use a small flathead like this or a pick, and you've got a clip here, and one on the inside. You can kind of get to it from the inside behind the ashtray, or if you got a small enough driver, you can get back here and do it too. Okay, once you got that out, you're gonna push the whole assembly through the front, wires and all. And there you go. This would be a great chance to swap out your probably blown bulb for an LED version. I got these from Amazon for like, I think $5 for an 8-pack or whatever. I'll put the link to it in the description. All right, next you're gonna grab your panel and your adapter, push it in from the back. You're gonna line this tab up with the top and just push till it clicks. And you're gonna do the reverse of what you just did. Take your plug and your socket first, rotate it until the tab on the cigarette lighter is lined up with the socket, then just push it through. Now on the back side, you want to take your light socket and put it in this little hole here. And there you go. Now we just need to install it back on the shift bezel. All right, now you can take your shift panel, slide that back on. Go ahead and plug this guy back in. You want to finagle this guy back into place, like so. And you just push down until it clips. Now you're pretty much done. All you gotta do now is bleed the system and go rip it. I'll be doing a couple more videos on how to do the inline brake system as well as the dual caliper install. So look for that on our profile. If it's 350Z or G37/370Z, they're the exact same process. So no matter which one you have, it'll still work.